Now, this topic, I added the environment. They asked me to talk about women, then I added environment. Because what I felt is that the consciousness, the sensitivity towards gender, the consciousness about environment, these things have become quite common for us nowadays. We have been conscious, we have learned to be civil, we have learned to be gender sensitive, although we have lots of crimes against women and similarly crime against environment also. But as teachers and researchers, I think we need to find out how do we incorporate these issues also into our research, not only into our day-to-day lives, but also into our research. Like as I said, I started doing my research on poverty, levels of living, but very unfortunately, I did my PhD in 1989. In levels of living, I constructed some indices and all. But very unfortunately, women came only once in my thesis. That was in 89, you see. Such partial work I did. Only with regard to work participation, I talked about women. Now, when I started learning feminist economics and deep women's perspective, then I really felt it was very partial research. I didn't learn to look at the question of levels of living from a woman's perspective. So that way it was partial economics. And in fact, the economics that we learn in our classroom is also partial, because we learn from a male-centric viewpoint. And probably that will be true of most of our knowledge disciplines. We have a male-centric viewpoint, but for that, of course, our male friends need not consider themselves to be blamed. They are not to be blamed. It is the system. The knowledge structure itself is male-centric. And of course, we also call it, say, in case of many disciplines, particularly in social sciences on all, this is also westernized. Westernized, masculine, and a little exclusive of the people. And of course, when you exclude people, women automatically gets excluded. And that is why you can see that the policy paradigms are changing. Nowadays, we talk about inclusive growth, inclusive policies and all. So that way, what I thought that this combination of women and environment will be a very necessary topic for us, not only interesting. I think all of us all of us enjoy nature. Your university is so beautiful because nature has surrounded it. Even our own university, it is beautiful because nature makes it beautiful, and we destroy it. Why do we destroy it? Actually, probably we do not want to destroy, but it's our work, our activities which automatically leads to destruction. Similar is the case with women. Men probably they do not think that they are going to intimidate women or they are going to neglect women. But the situation is such that a woman automatically gets dropped out. Say, do we have anybody from education? Yes. So this dropout is a very common word for educationists. So if you look at the say enrollment ratio, then go step by step. So we will get some sort of pyramidal structure. At the base, these days, of course, with the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, universalization of primary education, conscious steps towards including girls into education, we find that the base is quite even. That means girls and boys are equal. But afterwards, step by step, it takes a pyramidal shape. But this is not only in terms of the number at different stages, but if you also divide the disciplines, streams, then also you will find different structures. So in education, or this is also in economics, you will find that the sex ratio is in favor of women. There are more girls than boys. But in many other disciplines, it is the presence of women is lower. So that means even in knowledge structures, there is some sort of, unknowingly, there is a division of masculine and feminine. There is a saying, or there are certain statements made about men and women. Like, men do not listen. Women cannot read maps. Do you agree? Men do not listen, and women cannot read maps. Women cannot read maps. They cannot find direction. They get lost easily. So she says it is psychological. Our male friends, what do you say? Women cannot read maps. Not true. And men do not listen?
Not true.
No, I ask her.
That's also not true. These are the psychological causes.
No, the explanation that there is a book which the title of the book is Men Do Not Listen, Women Cannot Read Maps. So they have examined many myths. Another myth or reality whatsoever, mathematics is in the gene, baby, science is not for women. No, the voice is not that loud.
Again, this might be a myth only.
But we need to prove it, whether it's a myth or a reality. How do you prove it?
Because women didn't get the chance to, opportunities to take up certain areas.
No, probably since we have also scientists, if this statement is given to us, say mathematics in the gene, baby, science is not for women, probably we need to understand from the gene side. There will be certain scientific, I don't know, some used to say that the size of the brain is also different. I do not know, because I do not have this, I do not have this knowledge at least. Then of course the way she is saying that women did not get opportunity, that side I can say that the socialization process is that women are not expected to take decisions, women are not expected to sit in the study table for long. And you see, even in marriage, everything is given to the girl except the study table. She's given beds right to the, everything is given to her, so that she doesn't have to go and ask for, even one day's food is also given to her, so that she doesn't have to ask for food on the very first day. But she is not given a study table, because this is the concept. The expectation from her is to be a homemaker. So to be a homemaker, domestic science is sufficiently good. Home science is sufficiently good. She did not learn mathematics. So mathematics is not in the gene. So this, then once we continue with this, it becomes a reality for us. If we continue to believe something, we internalize it. Both men and women internalize it. Girls will think that I won't be able to do mathematics. Boys will think that no, she'll find it difficult, so it's better she should be put into some other subject, maybe music. So that this side, as a student of social science, I can analyze this. So this could be an issue for us, even in research, whether mathematics is for girls or not. Then we will go through the statistics. We'll go through certain, say, educationists probably will go for this learners assessment, terminal learners assessment, how they are taking it, aptitude. Those tests will be there, and then probably we can make a comparison between men and women. And probably we'll find out that it depends on the situation. Maybe some boys also will find mathematics difficult. Some girls may find mathematics is the only enjoyable thing. So it depends on the situation. So as a social scientist, we will talk in these lines. So this could be a point for research for us. Then for the scientists, they will have to look at the other side of the same topic. So this particular statement could be an issue for interdisciplinary research. Maybe people from literature will find out in literature whether we have characters good in mathematics. We have authors, say like Ayn Rand and all. They were architects, mathematicians, so they became writers. So probably people from literature can look at it from a different perspective. People from science probably will look at the scientific issues there, if it is in gene. So even with regard to fertility, we have generally fertility is related to certain factors. One is women's work, women's education, women's decision making and all this. But what we have found, we conducted a study in Bongaigaon and Dorong for District Human Development Report. In both the districts, the sex ratio was very much in favor of men. But I do not think they had gone for feticide. Maybe there may be some genetic reasons for higher birth of boys. So that means we cannot just say that this is because people are against women, that sex ratio is lower. There may be some genetic issues. So all these issues, when we talk about women and environmental issues, there is scope for interdisciplinary research, or rather even scientists, instead of, say some topics are very common among, do we have anybody from chemistry? I have seen that in chemistry 2 topics are very common. One is to find the trace elements, but so that way probably they will find their research has a different perspective. We students of social sciences want a social perspective on that. So when we have the social perspective, it is easier for us to put in gender. For people of science, it may be difficult, but for a microbiologist, it should not be difficult. Do you have any story of gender perspective research in microbiology? There must be sufficient scope in microbiology.
Yes.
Have you attempted any such?
No.
But do you have that question within your discipline? That could we make our research gender sensitive? Probably we do not, since most of us these days, in the days of API, people are confined to research with certain perspectives. But after getting all this, you will have sufficient time to do proper research. After getting your API scores and all this, making your position intact in your institutions, beyond that also you will have sufficient time. You will have your scholars. Through the scholars you can get many things done. So in microbiology, I believe, I do not know much, but since microbiology has microorganisms and all, so that way probably there is sufficient scope for gender sensitive research in microbiology. And of course environment sensitive. So actually all this, so my point was why I selected these two issues and combined these 2 issues. As a student of economics, of course, women can be looked at as the core of environment and development. So as a student of economics, I'll analyze the issue of environment from the perspective of development. Of course, we can also say that instead of development, I can also say that this is population and environment. How we are dependent on the environment, why there is a fear that we might destroy the environment, or rather we are not conscious about the environment. What is environment? All of us know, I believe. All biotic and abiotic elements surrounding us is environment. Environment can be defined from 2 perspectives. One is the anthropocentric, the other is biocentric. We generally use the anthropocentric because human beings are at the middle of the whole issue. As if the environment needs to be sustained for the benefit of human beings, so everywhere the human beings are related. The biocentric is, environment is for environment, the ecology has to sustain for itself. So you have to protect every animal. You don't have to find out whether there is man-elephant conflict or not. We need not be worried about that. So taking the anthropocentric measure, so environment at the center of everything, the human being is there. For the benefit of human beings, environment is there. Environment need to be sustained, and that is why we talk of sustainable development. I believe all of us know these concepts, Brundtland Conference, sustainable development. These have come to be a little new issues. For us new, but for the world it is quite old. Now, environment is such a resource which doesn't have a voice. It cannot say when it gets hurt. If we find dirt here, we'll remove it. But the river cannot say that. So they do not have a voice. And that is why women comes in together with environment. Women is also part of human resource which doesn't have a voice, collective voice or individual voice. So they also cannot speak out when they are hurt. So since they cannot speak out, we do not know when she is hurt. A woman who works from morning till night, a common housewife, she will end up saying, "Eku kora nai, ki korila ma dintu, thakilu ene." So we have just spent the time. So this spending time just like that comes to be such a lot of work. Similar is the case of environment. The environment is silent, it is there, we don't know what it is giving us, but we are taking everything from the environment. Amenities and sink and wastage. As if environment gives us all these services. What do we do with these services? Simple. We produce and consume. By taking these services, we produce and consume. Production, we can have lots of production activities. But I'll just use the word production, simple. And also production, consumption, distribution, so many activities we do. Service, even for the service sector, we use the environment. So, energy and resources are used for production, amenities are used by the consumption sector. After producing, what happens? They create effluents, they create dirts. You use the river water for factory, then it becomes dirty. In laboratories you do it. You use the clean water, then throw out the dirt. At homes we take water, bathe and throw the water into the environment. So both the consumer sector and the production sector, after using the environment, throws the dirt into the environment. Now, between production and consumption, as students of economics and of course a common human being, you know that there is exchange. When the consumption sector or the household sector contributes to the production sector by putting in their labor, capital, all these things. So production sector is dependent on the consumption sector or the household sector for the factors of production. Land, labor, capital, everything goes from the household sector. And for that, the production sector pays the household sector. I'm giving this lecture, I'm producing, my service is in the service sector, and for that I'm being paid. All of you are teaching in different institutions, you are being paid. A wage earner, he's working in a factory or maybe in the tea gardens, he gets wages. So that means exchange takes place between the two sectors. Similarly, production sector produces goods and services and they sell it to the consumption sector. For that they get price. So that means these two sectors are controlled by the market, or the market is the mediator, or the exchange takes place to the market. And so goods and factors of production. And for this, there is a market. There is a market for labor, there is a market for goods, there is a market for clothes, everything. So if there is scarcity of labor, prices of labor will go up, wages will go up. If there is scarcity of petrol, petrol prices will go up. But what happens when the environmental resources are scarce? There is no price for that. So that means these three things are not amenable to the market forces. Market cannot signal out its scarcity or abundance. So we continue to use it. And environment is not owned by anybody. It is open access. Anybody can use it. So since anybody can use it, no one takes care. So what happens? We continue to extract energy and resources, amenities, and continue to send dirt to the environment. Now all of us probably know that there is a material, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. So this good energy becomes bad energy, but the total quantum remains the same. This plus this plus this, if we take it to be the total environment, this remains the same, but the quality of the environment changes from good to bad. So bad becomes fatter, good becomes less. So at one point of time, this bad becomes so fat that it radiates some heat. So that heat is radiated to the outer environment, the global support services. Like the ozone layer. So all these get damaged. Ozone depletion, global warming, climate change, all these things come up. Now if you have a beautiful garden, you have created the garden, but people in the surrounding area get the enjoy the beauty of the garden, and also maybe it is the flavor of the flowers. Or if you are dumping your courtyard with dirt, it's your private bad, but it will create an externality for others. So environment creates good externalities, and that externality, no one pays for it. No one pays for the externality. Then again, a factory owner, he creates a bad externality. Say he creates the effluents, but he doesn't pay for it. He is dirtying the water, but he doesn't pay for it, because no one owns the environment. Then what to do? Now again, let me find out the similarities between woman and environment at this point. One more point. So since this has transformed to this, from good to bad, probably many of us know the entropy law. Entropy is a measure of disorder. So by overuse of the environment, we move from order to disorder. From cool to heat, we create heat. Suppose in the coal mine, coal was cool, but after digging and after using, we create heat. And that heat again gets radiated to the environment. Now, this overuse creates a scarcity of the environmental goods and environmental bads we are talking about. Then because of overuse, there is a scarcity of environmental goods. Since there is scarcity, obviously we have all these problems, scarcity of water, and what we do then, we go on pricing. So we have to find out some means for protecting the environment or regulating its use. And of course, I said that environment is silent, it cannot voice its protest. But we can see that it has started voicing its protest. It has been so much overused and badly used that the unprecedented floods, tsunamis, all these are nothing but manifestation of the anger of the environment. It cannot tolerate anymore. It is beyond toleration. So that is why the violence. Now, we in these days, every subject has an environmental component, isn't it? Environmental component, and we are also people are also trying to bring in the gender component. And even in national income accounting, they used to have satellite accounts where the environmental, we call it green account. And satellite accounts are used by many countries also to bring in the women's contribution to national income. Now this scarcity. So because of this scarcity, there is increased consciousness about the environment. Now regarding women, as I said, in case of environment, since it goes on giving us this service, we are not conscious. We do not pay heed, or we do not look back who is giving us the service, as if the service is taken for granted. Similar is the case for women in a traditional setup. In the patriarchal setup, of course, men and women are born physically different. But all of us know that lots of attributes are imposed on both men and women to make them men and women. We have some ideas about a man or a woman. We consider men to be, or rather we expect men to have certain qualities and women also to have different qualities. Even in this 21st century, if a woman walks too fast, she will probably be looked. People will at least look at her. So that means we have some expectations from men and women, and of course these expectations are different in different societies. So this is called the gender concept. The gender concept is more an abstract symbolic concept rather than an absolute and scientific concept. But there are basic physical differences, but other differences are imposed on them. Like as I said, mathematics is in the gene. So that way we identify men and women. As soon as we identify a baby boy and a baby girl, we put them into different environments. We start having different expectations from them. So right from giving toys, we differentiate. And we try to justify that girls like dolls and boys like guns. It's not that. If you put them together, they will play with both. There's nothing like that. Difference is very much an imposed difference. But people always try to swali nohoy hekarone putla to loi lole. Ekdom nohoy kotha to. Ekdom nohoy, ekebare nohoy. If you give them freedom, a boy can also have a soft heart. It's not that only a mother has a love for a child, baby, even father has love. But we glorify only mother's love. We forget that father also loves. So actually these concepts are stereotyping both men and women's roles. It's not that it is going only against women. Sometimes with all these new legislations, new rules coming in, women are getting advantaged because they have learned all these, through the ages, they had been deprived of the opportunities. Now that once they are getting the opportunity, but since they were struggling, their resistance, their capacity to adapt, all these must have been much more than men, because they have been struggling all these years. Men were just stereotyped and they were put into a different straitjacket. And women had struggled. Now, so in the changing circumstances, women are doing better because they have learned to struggle. And even with regard to work, in the economic concept of the term, women's work is not productive. Productive work is left to men. She is with reproductive work. She has to take care of the child, she has to bear the child, rear the child, look after the elderly. So her work is reproductive. And only those work which fetches money, which is exchanged in the market, is work. So like in the case of environment, since environmental services cannot be exchanged in the market, it is not to be valued. Environmental services, of course, what I'm talking is about the basic, very basic thing. These days we cannot say that environmental services cannot be exchanged in the market. We purchase oxygen, we purchase mineral water. So environment is very much marketed these days. And we have certain areas which are debarred, these are no more open access. You have to pay to go to those places. To enjoy the environment also you can pay. So what I am saying is, can be very much challenged, that this is, or those who are born after the 90s, or after, even not the 90s, after 80s, they will probably challenge each of my words, because this is not the situation now. Things have changed since the Bartlett Conference, since our consciousness about ozone depletion and introduction of subjects and everything in environment. Many things have changed, and with these market forces coming into play, it is even changing even faster. So now my point was that work, only those type of work which can be exchanged in the market for which you are paid is work. So women's work is not work. Similarly, you cannot value environment the way we value, say this. This has value in use as well as value in exchange. And this is, once I'm holding this, you cannot hold this. This is excludable. I have exclusive right over it. If you purchase a plot of land, of course you do not have absolute right, you have exclusive right. That means if you own it, others are excluded. But in case of environment, it is not that. Those are not excludable. If there is a field, say air is probably the best example. Say I am breathing, but I cannot stop you from breathing air. So it is not excludable. You cannot discriminately or selectively exclude anybody from using an environmental good. Or similarly, you cannot even discriminatingly or selectively make somebody use the environmental bed. If the bed is there, everyone is going to get it. So the environmental goods are not excludable. And of course, at one point of time, that those used to be non-rival also. Non-rival means if I use it, it is not going to listen for you. This will be as abundant for everybody. But nowadays it has become rival, it has become scarce. Now regarding work, women's work is not considered as work because she works within the private domain, within the household, she doesn't get paid for it. So her contribution is also not recognized, like environment, the contribution of environment. And the socialization process, as I said, we have certain concepts which we call gender concepts, and that way we want men and women to grow up, women to grow up to be something different and men to be something different. So we put them into stereotyped compartments. And also their activities, we expect them to do different works. We expect them to eat differently, talk differently. So we have two separate groups, stereotyped. So men are into the productive public domain, women are expected to be in the private domain. But very unfortunately, decision making in the private domain is also controlled by men. Even within the private domain, decision making is a male prerogative. So once again I said no single man can be blamed for it, and all women cannot be freed from it. Women are also party to this whole system, the system we call patriarchy. Women are also equally party. Women consider that if we continue with patriarchy, some women think that they are going to get advantage. They do not see the exploitation within the patriarchy. So patriarchy is sustained by women. So this is a system. The system, and very unfortunately this system is the basis of family, the basis of private property, basis of the market, and basis of even the capitalist process and the globalization process. And this whole globalization process is taking advantage of the age-old norms that are prevalent within our system. Ecofeminism joins feminist thought with ecological thought. One cannot fully understand the oppression of women without understanding how Western civilization has regarded nature. This is a very interesting argument. And of course, probably this sentence is from Vandana Shiva's Staying Alive, if I remember correctly. I had written it long back. I prepared it long back, I don't remember, but probably it is from Staying Alive. Without understanding how Western civilization has regarded nature. So, the ecofeminists are very much against scientists. The science wants to dominate nature. By dominating nature, they want to use nature for their own benefit. Like I said, development, we have more technology which continues to use more and more of the environmental resources. This is like the river. River being used as energy and resources, amenities, and also as a dumping ground, the sink. So the more of the water used for energy and resources, water available for amenities will go down, will reduce, because environment or water itself is a scarce resource. Scarce means it is not adequate with respect to the demand. With development, with technological development, there is growing pressure on environmental resources to be used for so-called productive purposes. Productive purpose, what is production? This argument says that why do we need so much production? Why do we need so much heavy technology? Just to produce more for a very few people. Probably recently there was a WhatsApp message everywhere, and of course also in the news also, that India is the 6th wealthiest country in the world. Wealthiest in terms of private wealth, not public wealth. That means we have the 6th highest number of multimillionaires, billionaires and all in the world. That means money is concentrated in a very few hands. So this using more of our environmental resources as energy and resources for producing more means, for consumption it is going to get reduced. Water is the best example for that. And that is why we have these movements against big dams. That by going through, by concentrating on big dams, using water for big dams, we will be producing thousands and thousands of tons of electricity. But only a small portion will be used for, within the state. Most of it will be sold out. So those who propose it, those who are in favor of it, they will talk in terms of growth. That export-led growth, we are exporting electricity, we'll be able to export electricity. So we will get more money. But more money at what cost? At the cost of the environment, at the cost of the people's livelihood. So ecofeminists look at this from that point of view, that the concept of development itself is westernized, masculine, and against the people. Why westernized? Because the concept of development started mainly with industrial revolution. From that, even development economics came up as a subject only after industrial revolution. So in industrial revolution, you know the stories of exploitation during industrial revolution. So if we have more industries, then we are termed as more developed. But if you look at the Indian structure, or most of the, in the South, say let us take India, we were predominantly agricultural. We had the potentiality of better agriculture. But right from the very beginning of our planning, we started giving more importance to industries, that too, big dams and certain particular industries. Then after some time, we started feeling that it is not giving us the right type of wealth, or there is a non-egalitarian distribution of income among the people, and lots of people have remained poor. And if you look at women, then women completely were out of the picture. So those who have read women's issues, probably all of you know the report on Towards Equality, Bina Agarwala's report, that was status of. So Towards Equality is like the first public audit of government expenditure. It is regarded as that social audit of government expenditure. So from that report it could be seen that even after it was published in 1974, even after so many years of our independence, so many years of having started our planning process, and that too with the idea of growth with social justice and the constitutional support of equality among all groups of people. Women were completely relegated to the background. They could not, most of the women, particularly agricultural laborers, they did not get the benefit of development. Similar was the case found in the Agricultural Labor Enquiry Commission report in the 60s. That the agricultural laborers who were actually the backbone of the economy, or rather that formed our society and culture, they were completely deprived of any benefit. So that is why the very concept of development had been questioned. What is development? If development is only industrialization, and of course this is what in economics, that is what we have been taught, that a country is underdeveloped if it is predominantly agriculture. The more we move to agriculture to industries, we are developed. But unfortunately we are not moving from agriculture to industries even, we are moving from agriculture to services sector. And the service sector, which is so volatile, major contribution to our economies from the service sector now. So now from moving from agriculture to industries, we are depriving people. How we are depriving people? Because technology-led development requires different skills. In most cases, technology-led development is labor displacing. Worse still, it is more women's labor displacing. And these days, probably most institutions are into skill development. Instead of teaching research, maximum allocation of resources on skill development. Now, what is this skill development? Very unfortunately, most of them talk about mobile repairing. And you know, people don't repair mobiles. Mobiles are to be thrown out. These Android mobiles are not for repair. But our youth are taught mobile repairing. We had differences with some of our colleagues with that, because some people are really promoting skill development. Skill development is okay, but what skill we require? The industry determined skill is volatile, temporary. Industry always requires newer skills. So the basic idea about our university system was that we will produce such people who will have a critical, the ability to go for critical thinking, and they will be trained for particular purposes by the industries themselves. Now they're putting all this training to the university system. Now that's a different issue. The point was that technology-led development is actually destroying nature and going towards just producing some very rich people. This is, it is too linear, I believe, the sentence. Then, with this technology-led development and the concepts of production, productivity and all this are also going away from the people. Say for example, when we talk about productivity, we talk about the yield rate per hectare of land. Say yield rate in this area. So if we want to increase the yield rate, we have to clean the place very properly and sow one particular crop. Of course, in that case, and also put fertilizer and whatsoever, then we'll be able to show that the yield rate is high. But in most Indian villages, we find that this particular, if you take this size of a plot of land, this will be full of different types of herbs, different types of medicinal herbs or nutritional herbs. Now, if you want to concentrate on only one particular say crop, then you will have to clean up all this. That means you are destroying biodiversity. By destroying biodiversity, you are depriving the common people from the natural source of nutrition. Do you agree? অসমৰ মানুহেতো এগ্ৰি কৰিবই লাগিব. People from Assam have to agree. এনেকুৱা এনেকুৱা ঠাইত নাদৰ পাৰত কিমান কেইটা হেৰি থাকে, শাকপাত থাকে. So সব চাফা কৰি এটা পাৰ্টিকুলাৰ বস্তু কৰিবলৈ হয়. Obviously this is against, and very unfortunately you know that FCI doesn't procure rice from Assam. Why? Because they say that it's not polished, it has different sizes and all, and it also a little bit more moist. It has more moist. You see, on the one hand they talk about biodiversity, and on the other hand they do not procure rice because it's not uniform. So this is development, this is growth. And again, they make us take midday meal from rice procured by the FCI. Midday meal rice is supplied by the government, and that is through FCI. Probably PDS rice also is that. Then what happens to the rice that our people are growing? Ultimately, you can see that there is a there is a withdrawal from agriculture. Even in Punjab, there is a deceleration in the growth rate because people are withdrawing from agriculture because there is surplus production of food and we are not being able to export, and we are made to take food, extra rice, extra amount of rice all through these midday meals and everything. So this is the type of development that is being questioned by eco-feminists. So as long as a river is in your neighborhood, people in the neighborhood enjoy the scenario there, use it for different purposes. Of course, cleanliness has to be maintained. Otherwise, the river happens to be people's property, community property. But once that river is used by a factory, the people are deprived from the resource. And of course, a village without any factory or without any industry is not developed. You will not consider, say, North Kachar Hills, Karbi Anglong. These places are not developed. They have nature, the natural richness, but they do not have too many industries and all. So they are even the Northeast as a whole. We are looked at, we are pitied. But the resource that we have, even as soon as it is used by industries, say plywood used by plywood industry, even animals are used for different industries. So then we will call us developed. So that means now with development, now you will require different type of skill. Those skills may not be available with the people in the village. So that means now you'll be importing newer skills. Newer skills may be labor displacing skills. So the very resource with which the people used to grow, and people probably also had a mechanism to protect those. In many communities, they do have mechanism to protect the natural resources, the community resources. So those community resources are taken away by private parties. These days, you won't find in villages any open access land or even fisheries. Those are under the panchayats or under private parties. All of you understand SMEs? Some of you, Jetuli poka khai paise? Nuni khai paise? Eta সেইবিলাক বস্তু আমাৰ ল'ৰা-ছোৱালীবিলাকে চিনি নাপায় কাৰণ you do not have open access. Jetuli poka হ'ব পৰাখিনি জাগা নাই, তেনেকুৱাখিনি open ঠাই নাই সবতে. Everywhere you are producing something, everywhere people are producing something. You do not have open access. So by depriving the community of open access, we are depriving the people of the natural sources of nutrition, and not only nutrition, other sources of health also comes. Now we use up the resources, we have used up the resource, and all of a sudden we discover that we have depleted the ozone layer, we are into climate change, we are into global warming. Then we talk of sustainable development. Then sustainable development wants that women be educated, people be educated so that everything becomes clean. So we have the Sarva Shiksha Abhijan and Swachh Bharat Abhijan and all this to clean up everything. Then, so once again that means, অসমীয়াত এটা কথা আছে বুঢ়ীৰ কি বন আছে শাকত ধান দি বাছে জানেনে বুঢ়ীৰ কি বন আছে শাকত ধান দি বাছে আমাৰ কিনছে কৈছে dig the hole and fill it again. So we created the beds. Now we are talking of sustainable development, and in the name of sustainable development we go on paying taxes, environmental taxes and all these things. Now again, one cannot fully understand the operation of women without understanding how Western civilization has regarded nature. So nature is looked at as by Western civilization as something to be dominated, something to be used for their own benefit. One of our colleagues, he used to say that Mississippi is the most unfortunate river, because Mississippi is surrounded by very rich people, developed people. So you have the highest number of dams over Mississippi. That means controlling nature. And probably you also know that some time back, one expert made them destroy some 19-20 dams. That because of the dams, the river is getting destroyed, getting damaged. So by controlling nature, people want to enjoy it. Similar is the case with women. In the patriarchal setup, women are also, as Western civilization looks at nature, so does patriarchy looks at women, as if woman is something to be used, something to be exploited. She doesn't have anything of her own. She cannot demand anything. She is not supposed to demand. We do not have much time for this discussion, but this is, again, I can leave it to you for debate. Whether this argument of ecofeminists can be taken, that the oppression of nature by Western civilization is analogous to the oppression of women under patriarchy. So one cannot adequately understand our civilization's abuse of nature without taking into account how our culture conceptualizes woman. The social construction of nature is implicit in and inseparable from social construction of gender. Some seek to liberate women from the sphere of natural, some wish to burn men from that sphere. Majority celebrate the woman-nature bond and urge that men likewise cultivate a closer relationship with nature and their own material bodies. Patriarchy rests upon a conceptual foundation of hierarchical dualism in which reality is categorized by oppositional pairs such as spirit, matter, intellect, emotion, mind, body, man, woman, culture, nature, where the first term of the pair is accorded greater worth, privilege and power than the second. Is it? Man, woman. Man has greater power, more privilege, culture, nature, intellect and emotion. Emotion is always considered to be bad, whereas people cannot live without emotion. In this system, man is allied with culture, spirit and intellect, while woman is identified with nature, body and emotion. Development depends on the environment, and women as a component of the masses are at the core. Women at the core. This is again something which could have been elaborated. You will do it for yourself. Thank you.